Welcome everyone to the Island Life Podcast, where we journey onto the island of discovery to relive some of the best and worst moments of survival. My name is Will, an experienced Survivor fan, 48 seasons deep, and I will be your guide. And joining us on this adventure is our rising Survivor fan with 11 seasons under her belt, and
Hello, everybody.
And of course, we also have our Survivor newbie, the brand new Survivor fan who just finished his 3rd season of the show. I give you Survivor F.
Hey everyone, how are y'all doing?
Oh, I'm real excited. It's time. Look, season 48 gave us some good moments, but it's now time to bring us to a happier age. At least compared to the very last season we had, as we now are going to embark on season 37, David versus Goliath.
What a fitting name, just coming off a season where one of the contestants' name was David. Imagine that David as part of this David group.
Never. Well, actually, maybe he would be. So that's a great place to start. So this is your first exposure to, at least UF, to a themed season with themed tribes. Because someone might argue that Survivor Pearl Islands, the other season we watched, had a pirate theme, but that didn't affect how the tribes were built. This time, David versus Goliath. David's on one side, Goliath's on the other.
Yeah, it's an interesting premise. It's one of those ones that I certainly enjoy. I like having theming with each season, so to be able to follow a theme along for the whole season and just have something to uh, just to identify with each core group, at least to get started with a season, I think it's something to it's an enjoyable aspect of each season, right? So like I'm remembering season 7 as the pirate themed season. So for this one, it's not following like an aesthetic theme, but it's following a theme in terms of their personalities, their appearances, things like that. And well, it'll be interesting to see how that portrays over the course of the season, at least for anyone who's familiar with the David versus Goliath story.
Yeah, I feel like in the other seasons we've seen, without a theme or like a close separation, the separation is just by where they start and their names, their color of their buff. But this time there is a pretty clear delineation versus the David versus Goliath, like their story, their background, what happened, and how did they get to that area. And I find myself, like, it's kind of funny because I feel like they really split off. Where like automatically I'm already thinking, how are they gonna work during the merge? Like, is there gonna be any mixing involved when that happens? Like, will it truly work, or this is how it like portrays now until the very end? Because they're very different. Like from the very beginning, I don't remember who, but someone from the Goliath is already looking at the Davids, are like, oh goodness, our team is way better, and it's very like a little off-putting to me. What do you guys think?
I know exactly what you're talking about. It looked like Mike, who's the filmmaker of Goliath. You kept seeing shots of him just judging the other team. But then, when it came to his own little behind the scenes, he was just talking about like, I don't know how I ended up in Goliath. He was just kind of questioning his own placement in the group. But it's an interesting start to the season, that's for sure. It just kind of, a lot of it is based on appearances. And while I personally think it's a very conceited way to start a season, it does make for an enjoyable watch for sure.
It's interesting because you're using the theme to build your tribe. Naturally, there's going to be people who believe that they shouldn't be on the tribe they got put on. Like, it's not like they got to fit. All they did was interview to be on Survivor. They get casted, and it's like, oh, by the way, the theme of this is. I mean, sometimes they don't even know the theme until they get there too. Uh, like in the edit, Jeff really wants you to not like the Goliaths. Like at least in the very first scene, and they're all getting on the boat, and bringing up these stories, people on the Goliath, and then these inspirational stories on the David tribe. Uh, but I'm curious that how when I because obviously I've seen this season, but I'm trying to remember now how Jeff will continue to frame it because it's not necessarily just the tribe of physically strong people, the tribe of physically weak people. I'm pretty sure that won't be what it is the entire time, but I'm curious to see what other ways Jeff emphasizes this separation. And you're right, Ange, that has a chance to make it much more likely to be David Strong or Goliath Strong than it was to be Siva Strong from the previous season.
I think at the end of the season, our takeaway will ultimately end up being something akin to don't judge a book by its cover, right? We're gonna see a survivor make it where maybe it's a Goliath who looks physically imposing, does not make it that far, or it's a David who looks very meek and weak, who ultimately ends up growing over the course of the season and making for a good survivor. Or, even a Goliath who changes their tune, who might have started out a certain way and then decides, okay, rather than focusing on having a strong social game, rather than focusing on being amazing at challenges, let me take a step back, keep myself grounded, play a more humble game, try to be more balanced rather than one side fits all kind of scenario. So I think this season, at least with the way Jeff is starting it out, is meant to it really is meant to show that anyone can be a winner. And I think the way they're splitting the teams, it's meant to be in a surprising manner is how they're setting it up. That's my takeaway.
Yeah, for sure. I really like the difference between the two, but I feel like I agree that later on you're gonna see them kinda although they're separated with 2 different backgrounds, because that's the difference. The Davids had to work their way up, to climb their way up versus it sounds like I might be misunderstanding, but the Goliath just has, like they're good, they got things going on for them, they kind of pulled in Allison, who's a physician, who was able to go to college versus Pat was like, "College? That's not even a question for me," you know? And
There's a
it really puts things in perspective, but I think later on, I'm hopeful, like, in the merge and stuff, they feel like, "Hey, like, the ones in the Goliaths are actually, like, they had to work on something too, like, they had struggles just the same, and, they could put those together," And I want that to happen, but I don't want, Davids to feel like they're always down forever, like, I hope that they have some wins, I hope they do really well later this season. Or throughout the
Yeah,
season, not later.
yeah, for sure. Because it started off good for them, but then very quickly spiraled out of control. But we'll get into all of that. So let's talk about our two tribes real quick, and if there's something specific you want to bring up about them, then just let me know. So on the David tribe, we have B Nguyen, a 28-year-old from Houston, Texas, and an MMA fighter. Oh, and by the way, this all aired in 2018. So in 2018, MMA fighter. We also have Carl Boudreaux, maybe 41-year-old, also Houston, Texas. Look at that Houston connection. Who's a truck driver. We have Christian Hibicki, 32-year-old from Tallahassee, Florida, a robotics scientist.
I'm watching him. I feel like he's, like, really good at puzzles. I mean, we already know he's really good at puzzles, it doesn't feel but I feel like him being good at puzzles make him very useful for the Davids. So but I also know that he doesn't seem like a physical threat, but maybe he'll surprise us. We'll never know.
this guy is straight up the example of judge a book by its cover. He's the you want to stereotype, he's the tech, he's like a self-proclaimed nerd too. He's called himself that over the course of the episode. So he is not shy about hiding who he is. And for him, he's a very fitting selection, both personality wise and looks wise in the David tribe.
You had made a joke during that first challenge that featured a slide puzzle. Is something to the effect of like, oh, imagine he just does these for breakfast or something, and he was like, oh yeah, actually, I I make Python code just to solve slide puzzles like all the time. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
Oh, that's
I see.
crazy. Like he's
No,
just
like
like, I am the puzzle.
he fits a stereotype very well. I will say that.
Those wild. But yes, that's Christian. There's Davey Rickenbacker, 30-year-old from Atlanta, Georgia, social media manager. It's Elizabeth Olsen, but probably not that Elizabeth Olsen. 31 from
No.
Longview, Texas.
Probably.
Kitchen staff. The only thing is, I think when Nick, who's also on the Davids, was talking to Elizabeth, he made like a comment about being from Kentucky. But I guess Elizabeth, maybe she like grew up in Kentucky as possible, and that just now she lives in Texas.
I was thinking about that too, because yeah, like I'm not sure why they would have had that as a talking point if she herself wasn't born in Kentucky, but like
Or
you
she
said,
just didn't want to be awkward and be like, actually, no, I'm not from Kentucky at all.
well, either that or yeah, like she might have actually grown up in Kentucky, not necessarily having been born there.
Next we have Gabby Pescuzzi, 25-year-old from Denver, Colorado, a technical writer.
In the beginning, I had like in the very beginning, by the way, I had pretty okay vibes with Gabby. I was like, okay, she's a little technical writer. She seems smart. I feel like she would be good in social games and stuff. I'm not gonna lie, later on in our first or second episode, I'm having some weird feelings about Gabby that I'm a little concerned of. It's that specific moment of him and Christian the beach. We'll talk about it more, but I don't know. Now I'm unsure. But in the beginning, I had good vibes, good thoughts about Gabby.
I'm right there with you.
Moment of
We
weakness.
had Jessica Pete, a 19-year-old from Lakeland, Florida, who was a waitress at the time. She's just notable because she decided to lie about her age and say she was, I think she said
She just
22 is what she was
yeah,
going
she
with.
just added a few years, so I was like, okay, I mean,
Well, I mean, eventually you get a Sue situation where if you change it by too many years, it's like, You-
Do you think it
you
makes
ch-
that big of a deal, like being 19 versus being 23, 22? Like, do you think
I
people
I
respect
personally
you
don't think
less
so.
because you're 19 in the
I
grand
I
scheme of things?
I feel like I understand why she did it because she doesn't want people to think that she's inexperienced. But then if you're just going to say like you're 22, it's not like, oh, this person is much more experienced. She's still what? Like she would be like clearly still the youngest person in the game still.
yes. Uh, I think she's just thinking like no one's gonna respect me. Like a 35-year-old isn't gonna like taking orders from a 19-year-old. So at least if I'm 22, I could say like I'm out of college, I'm working or something. 19, you still have the word teen in there. You just started college potentially if you're in college. She looks young. But you're right, it's only a couple years difference. So some of those problems will still, but I think there probably is a little bit of stigma. Like imagine at your place of work, your boss was a teenager who was 19 and you're taking direction from them. But like that would be like in an alliance when you're trying to call the shots in an alliance. I might not want to, I don't know, like I think it could definitely matter.
Yeah,
I
no,
feel
I
like
that's why I
yeah,
said I understand why she did it. That's it's a good point. It makes it easier to interact with others. Like if you feel like you're closer to them in age.
yeah, that's true. I feel like a lot of people in a certain age start like kind of separating me like, oh, you're a Gen Z or you're a millennial or you're a whatever. Like they just kind of start separating by age and years. Like you don't understand this or like, did you still have this back when you were younger or kind of thing. So I see why she's doing it, but I feel like ironically, knowing her age being 19 and being there, I'm impressed. I'm like, "That's amazing." Like, at 19, I would have never thought about going on Survivor, and there you are. That's incredible. That's where I would go by if she said
Yeah,
her
but
name, but I also
Especially
get what she means, though.
that's just a one person. I think she's just going
That's
based
true.
off like general consensus. And
Yeah,
it's
that's very
I'm
true.
glad you brought that point up because on the other tribe, the Goliath tribe, we actually see that opposite approach.
Well, yeah. Let's we'll get there when we get there. So Jessica's here. We also have Lyrissa Torres, 36, from Boston, Massachusetts, an airline agent who would later start an alliance with Elizabeth, actually.
Mhm. She's
We
just
have
the even within David, she just comes across as an underdog amongst like the Davids themselves. So that's
the
interesting,
David of the Davids.
right?
Okay. We have Nick Wilson, a 27-year-old from Williamsburg, Kentucky, public defender. So you can throw it in the category of another lawyer.
Love it. Did he tell people that he's a public defender? Because I forgot if he ever mentioned it.
I don't recall.
No,
Okay.
I
I
don't
wonder if he's
think
gonna
he
talk about
did.
his job. As we know, a lot of them tend to like lie about it or say they're not. So I'm just like want to know if he said that.
Yeah, he is in a wild series of events because he started getting a similar edit to Natalie on the other tribe in terms of the shelter building of he was trying to subtly not help. Like his confessionals are like, why would I put in effort and make myself weaker for the upcoming challenge by doing this? So
That's
uh
crazy talk because people are watching. Like, if anything, you don't boss around, you don't sit around, and you don't walk away. You just hang with a group, talk to them, chat, help a little bit. But, there's no need to boss, there's no need to sit and watch people. And there's definitely no need to go out looking for idols right away.
yeah. So but it it the heat seems to have died down for Nick, and that's because of the next person and the last person on the Davids was Pat Cusack, 41-year-old from I don't even know the city in New York. This is Watervliet, New York. It's probably horribly wrong. Maintenance manager. Um, Patsy, like he also seemed like the other way to think about the stereotypical David. Like worked in construction, has worked for a long time there. He's the one who made the comment like college. That was not on the table. Worked for everything. So I think he's the other stereotype you could go with if you think about it. This David tribe idea.
Yeah, grew up poor, rugged, had to work to earn everything. That's absolutely right.
Yeah, and he seemed like he was gonna end up being the heart of the David tribe if they kept him because he ran into trouble. Again, opposite of Nick, he was the person doing the most work, but he was starting to get on people's nerves, giving out all the orders to do things.
Yeah.
Getting a little too comfortable, a little too fast.
For sure, making comments, and I feel like he might have thought it was just, like, fun, like, way to chat and get close, but everyone's like, "Whoa, I just met you less than an hour ago. Chill. Sit down." So it's definitely interesting seeing that. I don't know how it was at the edits or what, but the people were not into it.
Yeah, it started. It was. We got a couple different confessionals of, hey, let's let him make our shelter, but after that, we might not need him. But I do wonder if they would have followed through on that because it's all well and good, but then when you lose a challenge, you do want like physical strength on your side to help with those challenges. And judging Pat by his cover, he seems like he would be useful in a physical challenge.
One thing I do appreciate of all of David so far that we've covered is this is a pretty diverse group of 10. So I definitely like that it's not necessarily there's similarities between such and such person. They all seem like they come from different walks of life. So I always love to see that.
Yeah, that's something cool, and that's something that's gonna be probably the biggest difference, even more than all the game mechanic changes and the format changes and idols and all that stuff. Just the cast diversity is the biggest difference between nowadays Survivor and back then Survivor.
Mhm.
That's just like it is what it is. Like they let more people have a chance to be on the show now, and that's good. It's great seeing all these different people who visually look different and actually their backgrounds are different too. And
Agreed.
because this is a themed season, I like, despite how diverse and different these people are, they do have this through line of this feeling of being on the outsides, being underdogs, like struggling to get where they are. At least they would think that of themselves, probably.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's the whole David tribe. Any first impressions you had, like in episode 1, as you're going through, like that video game exclamation point, like whoop, or like, ooh, this person, I like what this guy's saying or this girl's doing, or like, I don't know.
Honestly,
Um,
pretty sorry, you go ahead,
no,
Ange.
oh, no. I'm just saying I like the David tribe as a whole because it feels like they have this story. I'm always the person that goes for the underdog and they feel like the underdog. They are the ultimate underdog of the underdog team. Um, in terms of specific people, I think Christian is pretty like someone that I will look into a bit more to watch over because he is a very intelligent guy. And I just wonder, like, he isn't doing terrible at his social either. Like, he's got someone like Gabby working with him. So I wonder how far is he going to go? Is there going to be like how the social game is going to work in this tribe? Like, because I feel like there's not a whole lot of strong social game going on, but it is like start slowly working, like Larissa with Elizabeth, but everyone also low key don't want a Larissa. But it's slowly kind of tinkling and it's working. It's working, I think.
Yeah, to be quite honest, my first impression was more of a negative one. It just because it came across from when Jeff got them all on the ship and was just asking them questions, and Christian was a big highlight. The negativity from the sense that it just seems like there's stereotyping going on here, and I hope that's not really what we see as the surface level of this group, that there's more beyond just that. And I think that's what I'm looking forward to seeing over the course of the season, that takeaway I mentioned where you don't judge a book by its cover. So, it's not it's definitely got me hooked still, but in terms of first impression, I didn't want a situation where it's like, "Oh, this person's a nerd, this person's this." They're providing their own label and just kinda sticking to that. I would love to see layers to each and every one of these contestants. I would love to see someone from the David tribe just come out and say, "Oh, okay, yeah, like I'm doing this, like I'm just this public defender or airline agent. But honestly, I've got like an IQ of over like 150 or something like that." And you're like, "Wait, what?" So I would love to go to that theme of you don't judge a book by its cover, and just the first sort of classification for all these folks. I understand why they're doing it, but I feel like they're going too much into it, at least right off the bat.
It was very in your face, and it
Yes.
makes sense. Like you have named your season David versus Goliath, so you're really milking it and building in this idea of these guys versus those guys, the Davids versus the Goliaths. And I'll be curious too. How long is that the main theme? Will it change? Will it just evolve? Will it stay the same the whole season? We'll have to watch and see.
It's also like, a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Like, these people, again, didn't audition to be, like, part of the Davids versus Goliath. "Do you think you're a David? Come in." They came in to be in Survivor, and they got handpicked, selected because they're fitting for the theme that they thought of. So all we know, the Goliaths never thought they were Goliaths. The Davids never really thought they were Davids until that moment when they're like, here's the title of the season. And then now they're like, oh, we're Davids, we're Davids. I feel like there's like this self-fulfilling prophecy. And I feel like Gabby really internalizes it later on, or like a lot of them like start thinking like, oh, we're just Davids. It just happens like this. This always happens. It's so on theme.
Yeah, that was the red flag moment for sure. Where like not only did you say like woe is us, woe is me, but like this always happens to Davids. So now you're bringing it, like you would have never, no one would have called themselves a David in real life. That's not
No, I didn't
even
even
though
know what it meant. I didn't even know what it meant.
even though that is an expression, just the idea of coming underdog is David defeating Goliath from the Bible, by the way. Spoilers for the Bible, but
Oh. Could it
but
be
David
spoiler
and
for Survivor?
maybe we'll have to see. Um, but yeah, that's interesting. We'll see if people keep doing that. Like will we see someone say, "I succeed in life," because that's what Goliaths do. Like again, in real life, no one will ever say that. So I'm curious if someone will say that in the
Yeah,
season.
I'm gonna have to see that. We'll have to
Ah,
I'm gonna keep my ear out for hearing that. If it does happen, I'm gonna mention it for the pod.
speaking of, so now the Goliath tribe. So first we have Alec Merlino, the 24-year-old from San Clemente, California, who is a bartender.
Respectable.
There's Allison Raybold, 28-year-old from Chapel Hill, North Carolina, who's a physician, and she was, I think, the first person called out. No, probably the second person called out on the Goliath tribe by Jeff when he was trying to demonstrate the differences between David's and Goliath's, and he compared Allison to Pat. But I could see, I don't. I think Jeff actually put these words in her mouth, but you have to think Allison's thinking like, but I'm a doctor. Like that's not. It's not like I was just handed the doctor role. Like that's a whole lot of work
Yeah.
to go do this.
No,
And that's
the
yeah.
cut definitely made her look like, yeah, like, oh, I fit this like higher class mold. So it would have been interesting to see maybe like in the raw footage, maybe she was describing herself more where it's like it came across as more grounded. And the footage they selected was just where it sounds like, oh, okay, but I'm this, I do this.
Yeah, it's also again hard to put because Allison probably didn't know that she was a Goliath, and then she's put into the club, and then Jeff comes in, asks you, and you're gonna have to make something up if you don't believe it. You can't just be like, "Well, I don't think I'm a Goliath." No, what are you doing here?
That was an
You have to take it. You
interesting.
have to start making up a story. If I was putting a Goliath, I'd be like, "Oh yeah, of course. This is the maybe whatever, whatever you say,
I
Jeff. I'm in."
I found her, the contrast that Jeff highlighted between Allison and Pat. Like, I felt bad for Allison because it's like, she didn't ask to be put in that position. Like, of course, she must have worked hard to get to where she's at, but she has zero control over what happens to Pat or something like that. So it just came across as like, Jeff is like trying to represent that, like, oh man, Pat's been through all these struggles. Allison has not had to struggle a day in her life. I just thought that was funny.
Yeah. See, that's the thing. I wonder how often will Jeff do that as a he. I mean, because that's like the first scene of episode 1, so that makes sense. But will he continue to do that? We'll see. Um, we also have Angelina Keeley, 28-year-old, also from San Clemente, California, the financial consultant. She's the one who, in the first scene, her confessional is like, "I'm looking at all these other people in the other tribe, and like, wow, we're gonna destroy them." So she's the one who's thinking that, like that
Yeah, that gave me the
she's
ick. I didn't like that. It's not giving Angelina. Please, represents the Anges better.
This is the perfect example of someone growing over the course of the season where that's her first impression, but I would love to see a situation where she continues to stay on, she plays a good game. She gets more grounded. She gets to see, okay, like, maybe this shouldn't be all about classes, and like over the course of the game learns, okay, like this is how I need to work with people. This is how I need to understand other people. And who knows? That could make for a good finalist.
very, very true, very true. Uh, we also have Dan Ringering, a 27-year-old from Gainesville, Florida. He is a SWAT officer, and Dan's story is that he allows himself to be roped into a showmance by his own admission with, let's just skip a couple names here, to Kara K, 30-year-old from San Diego, California, uh, realtor, and
So soon.
day one.
Like, Dan, what are you doing, sir? It's only been day 1, less than 2 hours in, and he's like, "Man, she's so pretty. I'm in love. Like, this is it. We're working together." Meanwhile, Kara is like working with Dan, but Kara's got her own thing too. So it's like, Dan, please. And the thing is that they're not even quiet about it. Everyone knows. So it's really bad. If everyone's noticing it, it's just, oh, Dan, so soon. Why?
I know that this is something that attracts people to like reality TV, like the drama and all that, but like I'm so indifferent towards this. I'm just like, I just want to see like a competitive game. This
So you
guy's,
don't like
yeah, like,
showmances? You're not into that,
no,
F?
no,
But
not at
what about
all.
love? Love.
Love. What about love? How about like
I feel like
relation?
this is
Not
going
like
off on a
love
different topic.
relationship. Off the island talk. What about
I'm just,
love, F?
I'm just saying in this like season of Survivor, I want to see a bloodbath. I want to see a competitive game.
So you don't want any relationships built? Like
No,
not
no,
any, sorry.
no,
Are
no,
are
no.
you into like you're not into like romance relationships, but are you into like relationships in regards to like Joe and Eva last season, relationship with him, Camilla Joe, those type of relationships? Are you
I
okay with
think
that?
relationships are good, but I think the way that this started, it just feels so forced, and it's like they're highlighting so much of it, where it's like there could be other interesting aspects of the episode. Like, let me get to know like the other like people in the tribe. Like, we're talking about Angelina, right? Like just before Dan. I don't remember much of her at all, just because we spent quite a bit of time talking about Dan and his potential showmance, and they went over it quite a bit, like in this episode, which I mean, it's cool. Like there's some drama that does come out of it, which does become entertaining. That's just not my cup of tea. But I know it might just be like that's how Dan's intending to play his game. So those are just my first impressions. Like I'm not
Well,
gonna
what if Dan in confessional said, "I
I'm
have
stringing her
Cara
along.
wrapped around my finger.
Yeah.
Yep, I'm
Well, that's
maliciously stringing her along. I'm gonna betray her so bad at the end. I
Would that
can't
make
wait."
that's
her
why I'm
would that make him a good guy? Like, would you like that, F? Is that what you prefer?
n- I mean, morally no, but like if that's how he's playing his game and if that works for him, then all the power to him. Right? Like I'm about that competition. I'm about, whatever you can do to survive. Obviously, like it's important to keep your morals. Like, would I play the game if I was in his shoes that way? No. But if he feels like he can win, he can make it to the end by building relationships like that, he might do that. He might feel like before getting into post merge, hey, let's see, like this is obviously a hypothetical, but Dan might be like, okay, let me build a strong relationship with her so she can serve as a shield for me. And then if she's eliminated by post merge, let me just try to get together with someone else. That might be his mentality, and that could work for him. But I don't know that yet. So
See, the thing is, in this situation, I'm closer to F side because I like it when it's their plan. Whether it's the honest intentions or malicious intentions, I want it to be intentional.
okay.
But Dan in confessional says, "I know it's a bad idea. I know I shouldn't." But basically he said, "But she's awesome and she's beautiful and this is what it is. This is happening." So it's clearly not in his best interest, and he knows it's not in his best interest. And he's doing it anyway. So
So
now it makes me want to root against him or him
let me put it
specifically.
this way. Let me put it this way. So they're both involved in that showmance, right?
Mhm.
I'm more I like it more from Kara's side because she didn't initiate that, and for her, she could come up in a confessional and say, "Yeah, I'm taking advantage of him." Like, because that's
I
something that Dan
mean,
initiated. Who knows? That might be part of his plan if he's self-aware enough. Like, he might disclose that in a future episode. But we could see from Kara's perspective that she's like, yeah, like, like he's coming off strong, so I'm taking advantage of that because I know like that's a quick way to gain his trust and get along with him. Uh, I'm just like, if that's part of your plan, let's see how it works out. All the best to you.
to be
But
clear, Kara did not say that's her plan until being approached by some of the other girls. But before that, she seemed pretty into this too. Even
no,
if
no,
she
I'm
said we should keep it on the down low, like it wasn't
everything
being
I'm
kept on
talking
the
about
low.
currently is hypothetical, just based off their first interaction, where Dan is
I
coming up
see,
to
I
her.
see.
So I'm just saying,
Okay.
like, if that's
I
how it
see.
turned
Like
out, like
whereas
that's a
it's
situation where it's still a showmance, but like I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Like from her perspective,
you have
like
hope for Kara,
right, like she
whereas you have no
turns it
hope for
into
Dan.
leverage for her.
Mhm. Understood, understood. There's still potential for Kara to make this her strategy, whereas you've given up on Dan making this his strategy.
Well, Dan, if he's yeah, Dan could create this as a weakness for himself, right? Like if he's just like, oh, I really like if he's just looking at it from like uh, like from a physical, like attractiveness standpoint. Like he's obviously attracted to her and he's like not hiding that whatsoever. And that could be one of those things where it's like, man, if this costs you the game, like that's such a terrible way to go out.
But what if
Yeah,
you find your true love and then you live happily ever after? You might not have $1 million, but you have one very important heart.
Well, we'll have to revisit that once the season ends, just so we don't spoil that for ourselves right now and see if
that's
they do end
true.
up together.
Good
Uh,
for him. Good for him choosing love over $1 million, you know? I love that
Yeah.
for you, sir.
Yeah. No, I would agree with that.
Dan is down
until
bad.
Archie's.
It's what the 2025 term is. Dan's down bad for Kara right now. And nothing matters at this point.
So let's introduce. I'm gonna introduce the other the other Goliaths. Most of them, just so I could finish this topic about the showmance. So, we also had. We're skipping Jeremy for a second. John Hannigan, 38, from Los Angeles, California. He is a pro wrestler. He has been in a bunch of different places, gone by many different names. I actually know him as John Morrison, as do you, F.
Mhm.
But he's been Johnny Mundo and Friday Night Delight. He rattled off like 8 different wrestling names, which makes sense because every time you go to a new company or just your gimmick changes, you get a new name. So I was excited to see
Oh.
this guy. Like
Yeah,
I grew up
same.
watching him. Like I knew him immediately.
I've only watched it, like I do remember him, like his face is memorable. Like I remembered him back when I was watching wrestling here and there. So it's nice to see a familiar face. I don't remember if he mentioned Johnny Storm as a nickname, but if he did, I was just like laughing about it for a second because it's obviously the name of a Marvel character too.
Yes, exactly. Okay, pin and John for a second. So then there's also uh Natalia Azuka, 25, from Irvine, California, industrial engineer. So the stage is set now. So Kara at some point is approached. She's actually approached by a couple different people, but the most important conversation was with Natalia and Angelina, who just tell her like it's not a secret. Like like you are very public with this. But Angelina, this was her one moment of the 2 episodes we watched. She is trying to convince the other 2 girls that, hey, you, Kara, have Dan, and Angelina believes that she has John, and that Natalia has Alec. So from Angelina's perspective, the 3 of them can make those 3 boys do whatever they want. Yeah, I know we've only seen Dan and Kara so far, but if you take Angelina at her word, the same thing is going on for the other 2. Enough for them to think they could boss them around. So Angelina wants it to be a 6-person group total, and that's a majority on this 10-person tribe, and go from there. So kind of turning in what's usually a weakness in a showmance, and only Kara and Dan is a showmance right now because it's very out in the open. The other 2 might become showmances. We'll see. But turning what's usually a weakness into a strength by building your alliance based on that. So I thought that was interesting.
I like the edit of like putting that into perspective, how every individual, those 3 girls had somebody else that they have, and they could just like, in a way, quote unquote, like manipulate and be able to take out the other people and then slowly dwindle out and then be the 3 people. Is it realistic and it'll work long term? Questionable. But it's a very good idea if it were to work. That's a really, really good idea.
Would you say that's a girls team right there?
Yeah, this is a girl squad team. Yeah, these 3 would be one, but so that's why I get a little worried as long as they don't name themselves. Gosh, this episode, they keep naming each other's groups. I'm like, "Why are we
Uh,
naming already?"
excuse me, Nick keeps
Yes,
naming
that's
them.
true. I'm like,
He's
"Nick,
the only.
why do you wanna go home, Nick? Like, why are you naming? Do you want your people to go home? Like, what's going on right now?" I'm so confused.
An old
It's funny.
Mason-Dixon line.
Yep.
It was so good though. Like, that came out I was like, "Wow, dang, you just came up with that, like, on the
And then
spot."
to Elizabeth, they are the thoroughbreds. Thoroughbred through Kentucky.
That was very impressive too. But I was just like, why do you keep doing this? Why are we naming? It's been barely like 5 minutes, guys.
Because you remember what ended up happening to who in season 47 on Sam's team. There was Andy, Sam, Rachel, and this other girl.
Annika.
Annika was on
Ooh,
there, but she wasn't
yeah.
part of the alliance.
Oh, she was not.
This person, the three girls had named themselves, gave them a
Yes.
name, and then she told Andy, and then Andy told Sam, and then Sam goes back to her, and it was
Oh,
all because
Sierra.
Oh, Sierra. Yeah, I
Sierra.
should know
Yes.
that.
Yes,
Had her off.
yes,
I remember. It's the
yes.
breadwinners. That's what
The
their name was.
Breadwinners Alliance.
Yes.
So
And then
because they
it
named
broke
it,
so fast.
because they gave themselves a name, it opened the possibility for that name to escape. And obviously, if I hear there's a name, like not only are you talking with them, but you've given yourself a name. What? Like I thought you were with us, and that spiraled out of control because of that. So yeah, that is the risk with naming your alliance. But then again, it feels cool. Like yeah, like it makes me feel like my alliance is stronger if we name ourselves.
But then other people feel the same way and then be like, no, we gotta knock that down. Too strong, not good. Because if you're strong with them, you're not strong with me. Like, why did you, if you had names with them and you don't have names with me, I'm gonna feel some sort of way. You know, it's like your best friend, like having a thing with this friend. And it's like, what, but what about me, brother? Like, why don't we have a
Exactly.
team name?
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
vote you
So we'll
out.
see. We'll see how those names, those alliance names survive. So last couple on the Goliaths, we had Jeremy Crawford, 39-year-old from New York City, an attorney. We had Mike White, 47-year-old from Los Angeles, California,
Mr. White.
filmmaker,
Yep.
School of Rock, pretty
Can't
famous.
believe it. He just threw it out there, and I'm like, School of Rock? That's incredible.
Yeah. Mike's drama of the episode is it seems like there's one person every season. They just can't help themselves. They have to instantly go out to search for the idol. And think that they're not being noticed too. Just like Star in season 48 is convinced that no one could possibly notice them.
These
Yeah,
people clearly
no.
don't watch Survivor.
No, it feels like it. It feels like I feel like maybe in the moment they're like there's so many people, especially this is like a 2 tribe one, right? There's so many people, nobody can keep track of me. You're gonna forget about me. But no, in survival, that's all you do. You're like, where's Will? Where's F? Where do you go? Like, and then everyone's gonna talk about it too. Like the moment I don't see you, I'm gonna be like, where the heck is F? I'm concerned. Is he okay? But you'd say that just so everyone else is like, yeah, where is F? Probably looking for the idol. Now you have a target on your back.
What
And
the F?
what the F, right?
And it would turn
Oh.
out that if he had waited a day, it turned out everyone started looking anyway. But then again, I mean, it's better odds you're gonna find it if you're the only person looking. So I understand that. But
I
it's
like
just
how it's so
I don't know.
taboo, like timing wise. You always gotta I feel like Survivor is a lot of the biggest thing of Survivor is just reading the room and reading your tribe. And it's like reading the room, reading the tribe, knowing like when that time frame is okay to do this. When is it okay to put this person's name up? When is it okay to do this? Because the moment you kind of don't read the room correctly and do the other thing, you're done. It's over. Goodbye.
Oh, absolutely. You come across as cutthroat if you're just jumping at the gun to go get that idol, get whatever advantage you can. And if that's the perception others have of you, they'll get worried about what you're up to, what you're going to do, however yourself you're going to position, how you're going to position yourself to get into the lead. So it definitely puts a target on your back from that sense. So I agree. I don't think it makes too much sense to jump into it right away. It's good to be aware and be vigilant to try to find one if you can, but just let it come naturally or read the room and see what everyone else is up to before you really just rush out there to get the first idol that you can.
And that leaves Natalie Cole, 57-year-old from Los Angeles, California. A lot of Cali people on this season.
Oh, Natalie.
Publishing CEO. Natalie.
Natalie what I get from Natalie is Natalie didn't even sign up for Survivor. Like, Natalie's
Oh,
child or grandchild just like auditioned for their mother or grandmother and was like, please take her. Like, it'll be fun. And then they're like, oh my gosh, that's so cute. Natalie come through, and Natalie was like, excuse me? All right, whatever. And just decided to go on a nice little vacation, on a vacation to hopefully to tell everyone what to do and sit there. Because Natalie is not playing Survivor at this time. Natalie is just doing what Natalie does.
Being a publishing CEO.
Yes, yes. Which I
yeah,
love that for you, Natalie, but dang.
yeah, so many of the do not do's were committed by Natalie. So during the initial stages where we're building the shelter, she is really never, I don't know, I can't think of one shot showing her assisting in that build, but there were plenty of shots of her trying to give instructions. Now, she wasn't actually the person, but like she wasn't the person giving orders. So every time she talked, it was like she was interrupting in something, or she would say like, hello, to get some attention and then say what she wants to happen. So that's definitely not, this is not great. Uh, and the I don't know. It's really just like just her demeanor and attitude and what she's saying, and she's getting on everyone's nerves. We don't see any any examples of her trying to build an alliance, even if these day one alliances are kind of fake. I feel like you're people just saying the words. She's not even saying the words. He's not getting together with anybody.
Let's be
No.
real. They're fake throughout the course of the season. But
Well, okay. Well, then to her credit, Natalie's not being fake then. She's just being herself, and it
yeah,
is not doing her favors because even there was an opportunity. They think that Mike is out looking for the idol. And interesting, a little weird quirk. Like, there's a big group talking about it, and people say like, "Oh, someone should go look for him," but no one actually volunteers nor tells someone else to do it. And eventually, Natalie's like, "Okay, I'll go do it," and she walks off. But I do wonder, like, would they were acting like that would be a really bad thing to do, to walk away. I wonder if it would have been. Like, it ends up being for Natalie because it's just more time to talk behind her back. But, like, if Dan went, I don't think they would have talked behind Dan's back or something.
No, it's just the fact that it was Natalie and everybody hates her. Like we talk about, like, I was like, I forgot what Natalia is. And then F was like, she's the one with the beef with Natalie. I'm like, and is that the entire tribe? Like, everyone doesn't like her. I think the only person that gave her like an olive branch was the wrestler, right? John? Yeah, John.
Well, after she
Jer-
got 2 chances.
Jeremy as well.
Oh, Jeremy
Yes.
too. Yes.
So, first, with so actually, so now that we've talked about everybody, there's a lot of pairs forming up on both tribes. We talked about the 3 pairs on Goliath, and then on David, it seems like, well, Nick is in 2 different pairs, seemingly, and then Christian as well might be in something with Nick and might be in something with Gabby, and then Larissa and Elizabeth are definitely working together. So a lot of pairs. So John on Goliath decides he's going to try to make his own pair, and he actually approaches Natalie. And this is after a lot of drama where people are starting to really not take kindly to Natalie. And his thinking, he tells us in confessional, is we are so different. Like, no one would expect us two to be aligned. This would be a great secret alliance, probably akin to what we just saw play out with Kyle and Camilla on 48 type of thing. Secret alliance. Well, nothing will happen. But it doesn't really go well at all. Natalie doesn't necessarily go against this, but John was trying to say, like, people are not liking you, basically. But that's a reason you should work with me, because I'm going to work with you anyway. Don't repeat any of this. Don't say anything. And we cut to Natalie approaching every single person of her tribe, one by one, to confront them. Like, so what? You don't think you're going to vote me out first, or what? Doesn't help at all. Disastrous move
So
by
bad.
Natalie.
so bad. Like, she did the opposite. You're like, one, you prove to the person that told you something that you cannot be trusted. It's like the same moment of when, like, Cedric told Say to calm down, to, like, don't react, don't do anything, and Say did anything but that. And and I just love because Natalie would talk about how, like, "Oh, you're just gonna vote someone like me out? Like, you think I'm gonna win? Like, you think I'm gonna do well later? I'm like 60 something years old. I'm 50 something years old." I'm like, "Oh my gosh." And everyone's just staring into space, like, I not listening to her at this point, just, "Mhm, yep, yep, mhm." No one's, like, trying to explain more, trying to work with her, because they're like, "What's the point?" They're all so checked out with Natalie. And it's only been episode 1 or
Yeah.
2.
Yeah, pretty jarring when it's like they just met each other. This is like their first impressions of each other. I remember thinking at the time, this is the worst start out of any season I've watched so far that I've seen a Survivor have. I would genuinely be shocked if this person is not the first person voted out in their tribal.
It seemingly seemed like she was definitely gonna be the target if the Goliath tribe had gone the tribal either the last, uh, 2 episodes, and it's not looking good. Like we said, she did not actually start her alliance with John. I mean, maybe there's a chance it could be salvaged, but it's not looking good. Technically, she talked to Mike before, like, maybe there could have been something, like 2 of the older people on their tribe, but she didn't take advantage of that either. She just went to tell him, "Yep, people know you're looking for an idol." Yep, and then left. So that didn't go anywhere. And
That didn't
then
go anywhere at all. She could have made a relationship with Mike by doing that, being like, "Hey, like, I wanna watch your back. They're thinking you're making, like, let's come back, let's okay." But instead, she's like, "They're thinking that," and then walk out. And Mike's just like, "Oh, okay."
and lastly, Jeremy, and so not for the same reasons as John, Jeremy seemingly just out of the kindness of his heart and maybe like a couple small percentage, this would be good to have this person on my side. Uh, Tries to offer the olive branch, and his conversation tries to be like, "Hey, like I'm gonna be straight with you. This is what people think of you. This is I'm not saying this is how you are, but this is the impression you're giving. With some self-awareness, we could turn this around." And Natalie does not accept this constructive
Just
criticism at
shuts him
all.
down. She immediately just shuts him down. Like, it was just it's just so baffling in that I'm sure we were all thinking that, like, she's lacking a lot of self-awareness, and the fact that Jeremy himself commented on that and was saying stuff to really just like, she didn't notice that he actually like, he didn't even have to say anything to her. He was saying something for a reason, maybe just to give her some perspective, and she didn't take it like, to her, it came across as criticism rather than something constructive, so that was another situation where she had not only one person approach her and try to provide some level of support to her, whatever that may have been. You had two people try to come up to her and provide some support, and she just did not handle it the right way with either person. So I'm not sure. Like, my takeaway with Natalie has just been with everyone else. They're trying to brainstorm a game plan for how they'll make it towards the end or what sorts of relationships they'll form. I'm not sure what her game plan is. Like, I don't. If you were to ask me after watching episode 1, episode 2, what the takeaways for her, how she plans on winning the game, what she's discussed, I'm not sure what exactly that is because she hasn't really done anything to help her own game.
No, and she sat out in the challenge, so she's not help. She didn't help in the last challenge. It feels like she's closing off all of her possible ways to advance in this game. So not looking great. Is there anyone who it is looking especially good for though on Goliath? So we could wrap up our 2 tribes here.
I would say the person I liked the most from the episodes that we watched was Jeremy because I think he comes across as a smart person. He's vigilant. We haven't talked about this yet, but someone does end up finding the idol, and he's vigilant enough to figure out where to look for that and what to look out for. So I think from a perspective of knowing how to talk to people, knowing the dangers of playing the game, he's coming out ahead, and he's kind of the sequence we saw with Natalie. We saw that he is kind enough to try to lend someone a hand. So he's he knows that the game is not all about him at this point. He needs to be able to build these relationships to make things work. So I have high hopes for Jeremy, and I'm thinking he can continue to play a good game.
Yeah, it's kind of hard because I think as a team, I'm not super rooting for Goliath, but I do think that out of anybody, it would be one of the girls from the girl squad. And I think Kara or Angelina has a good potential if they use it right and there's no like betraying on one another within their group, core group. And then, I mean, as long as they are able to slowly take out the other ones that are not part of it, they have a good advantage. This is a good thing to have, but I don't know. It's still very like start like very early to say that, but that's where I'm at. I think Angelina and Kara K can do well.
Makes sense. Makes sense. All right, so that's our 20 people, a lot of people that we have to work with here. Uh, so let's focus on the events that we haven't covered yet on the episode, including the opening. So after Jeff does our introduction and introduces the theme of the season, asks these David versus Goliath questions, we get our first reward challenge of the season. It's pretty unique. The way Jeff sets this up is after talking about all these David versus Goliath stuff, then he transitions to the Goliath tribe picking who they think are the two weakest or the weakest man and weakest woman on the David tribe, and after they do that, then the strongest man and woman on their tribe for a challenge. This is very different, I think, than anything else we've seen.
It's very strategic, and it also already opens up to the point of, like, what the other group thinks already of the other people. Like, automatically, they pick out Larissa and Christian, and if I was those 2, I'll remember the people that thought I was the lowest, and during the merge, I'm gonna remember you. So it's just funny to it's very different where they are choosing who you think are the weakest in this group. And then and then the other people had to choose, like, who do they think they're the strongest of their group.
Yeah, this becomes a theme for all so for the course of the episode. So it's interesting to see. But like you said, there is strategy in play in terms of um, despite the Davids having the weakest members, what appears to be the weakest members selected, they get the opportunity to select how the challenge will go. So it's not all bad. It's not all doom and gloom for them.
Yeah, so that's the other twist. So after that's done, then the David tribe as a whole gets to pick which parts of the challenges that each of them will do. So in theory, they could, if they make the proper judgments, they could give the Goliath pair the most difficult parts of the challenge and themselves the easiest. Um, Ultimately, the way it plays out, it everything but the puzzle ends up being very close. But then we mentioned it before. It turns out that Christian just as you said, eats slide puzzles for breakfast and obliterated it there. If you watch again, even Jeff has a visible reaction like, whoa, he's surprised they did it so fast. And they smoke the Goliaths in the slide puzzle for David win.
Yeah, Jeff's
It was
probably
so
thinking like,
crazy.
did we have to make the edit look like it was harsher than it actually was for?
Yeah, I thought, like, for some reason, I thought it was pre-planned already. The way the way it looked so the way he did it made it look so easy. I'm sure it wasn't, but he did it so fast that I was like, "Wow, they already set it up for them to win." That's what it looked like.
So
Yeah,
it's
I
you got to keep an eye out for Christian if that becomes a recurring theme with them.
I mean, puzzles are always like a recurring theme, I feel like. Although, during in the very end, and it really depends if they make it to the end with enough time to do puzzles. So I feel like they always need like as I feel like in other seasons they always say like they need strong people, but they also need puzzlers. So these are the two people they need, and those that fall in between those cracks, we don't need them. So I think Christian is a very big asset for the Davids if they want to hopefully win future immunity challenges.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see whenever we think of challenge beasts, we think of like these more imposing physical players. So it would be very interesting to see someone who turns into a challenge threat just off that mental game.
That would
Yeah.
be right. Like that's like being a challenge beast. Like would probably normally earn you a spot in the Goliath tribe in the more like visible sense, but everything about him, everything else about him screams David. So it would be interesting if it could play out like that. So they won, by the way, just like extra shelter building supplies, and it turns out that would come handy. So both tribes go to try to build their shelters. This is when people start getting annoyed at Pat and getting annoyed at Natalie for different reasons on both tribes. It's also when Mike sneaks off, or so he thought, to go look for the idol. A couple pairs start being formed. This was when Jessica and Carl actually, and Davey, they didn't like fully commit to each other, I think, but they united over being annoyed at Pat. So that's just added to the list of groups that might work together. And eventually, in a cool edit, we see when most of Goliath decides to be off looking for the idol. And by the way, they do that because on day 2, Mike, who's already been caught red-handed once, he's like, okay, I made a mistake. But then wakes up the next morning, he's like, well, at this point, they already, like, I'm already on the bottom now, so I might as well still go look for an idol anyway. So he goes back out again, and that's when like everybody else starts to go searching on Goliath. And it's actually we cut to Dan, who's like, oh, they're all looking out there looking for idols. And you might think, is this about to be a guy who like doesn't believe in searching for idols? Like, where's this going? He's like, yeah, I know they're not gonna find it, cause, and then pulls out idol. I got it right here, basically. Like, oh, and then it cuts to him finding it. And he shows it to who's with them? I think Natalia and Kara were with
Wasn't it
them.
Natalia? Yeah.
So he tells both of them. He definitely would have told Kara regardless, I think. But Natalia gets to know as well because she was there. So even if a showmance is bad, having an idol is usually good. So good for Dan.
Yeah, great sequence in terms of just how he just naturally found it rather than even like making it look like, oh, he's obviously looking for an idol in the same vein that Mike did. That's how you want to do it. You know, you want to make it seem like everything's natural. If I remember correctly, there was someone walking ahead of him at the time too, who probably wouldn't have noticed it. So he could have kept it hidden to himself. It was just that smooth of a sequence. He just found it like during one of the walks. So, um, you know, that's the ideal way to find it. Like, you know, just by pure happenstance, because that way, even if someone sees you find it like that, you know, it doesn't look like you're, oh, this person is looking for an idol. It just, they happen to catch a glimpse of it. And what do you know? It ends up being an idol.
Yeah, it does continue the same trend that exists in present day, where someone finds an idol and they just have to tell people. So that just continues. By the way, it's not only the new era. Now, granted, it's because they were with him, but still, that means he was looking with them instead of looking alone. So, uh, and as a result, the entire, like, now the 3 girls all know because they're talking to each other. It's unclear if John or Alec know yet, but depending on how tight that 6-person alliance is, they may all know eventually. So we get that, and then ultimately, the way this first episode goes, we end up at the immunity challenge, which was called Matchbox 25, which is really referring to the very end of the challenge. So there's a bunch of obstacle course type of things to get through, but at the end, it's now a huge slide puzzle, like big blocks as all the little tiles. And you get one caller standing on a podium shouting out instructions for the rest of the tribe to move these tiles to eventually solve. It's not quite, it is a slide puzzle, but unlike the one at the beginning of the episode, it's not to like release a block. It's to get all the numbers 1 to 25 in the correct order. And Goliath had a huge lead based on all the other parts of this challenge going into it. Carl struggled for David in the beginning. Uh, Christian gets another opportunity to show off his slide puzzle skills, though, as the caller. However, this time it was not enough, as it was close, but the Goliaths take this one to win their first challenge and their first immunity of the season.
Oh, I wish they, like, caught up to it or something, but they were just so behind at the boat. It felt like some of the guys weren't even rowing for a moment in some
Oh, yeah,
scenes.
that's true.
It felt
Yeah.
like they're just, like, on a little date rolling around, but I'm like, "What's going on, guys?" They start losing it too, like, he was up there, and then the boat slowly just goes away, and then they have to, like, paddle back. It just didn't work out. It was hard because it was raining, like, don't forget there was, like, a storm going on, and so it's raining, I don't know if you could see well. Can you hear me well? Like, even I felt like the audio wasn't great, from some moments of it, so I'm sure the weather didn't help it either.
No, not at
Yeah,
all.
let's not
That
bury the lead there. It turns out on this day 3, Jeff reveals, "Oh, by the way, this, like, horrible rain you've all been through, that was a cyclone that came through."
Crazy that they were still on an island during a cyclone. Like, I remember during one when we were watching it, I was like, when do they draw the line of being like, "Hey, guys, let's not play anymore. Let's bring you back, somewhere safe just in case." When do they do that? Is there like there's a medic there? Is there like a site meteorologist, weather guy that's like, "This is not safe. This is gonna go bad." Because there could be a time where the weather gets so bad they can't rescue them from an island because they're in an island, period. There's nothing else to do. They can't get out of it if there's, like, high water and they flood.
Well, hope they made a good shelter.
yeah. The show is
Uh,
called Survivor for
you
a
know,
reason.
right? That's true. The true Survivor game is actually, the cyclones you made along the way.
Yeah, definitely the most intense start to a season we've seen so far. So it definitely fit the theme of survive the elements. So
Oh,
it's
for sure.
they were not pulling their punches in terms of what they were allowing the survivors to get into.
Yeah.
Regardless of if you had flint to light a fire, the weather conditions were just so bad that it's like it's hard to do anything outside of, like just staying out of all this like wetness. Like it's hard to not get drenched in this sort of environment. And then trying to sleep through that, you're probably really cold too. So it's just a tough position to be in.
Yeah, and they actually do the Davids have, like, this emotional moment of them, like, were they, like, under their tarp or their where their shelter was even though the rain's still going on them, and they have this talk, like, I believe it was Jessica that had like, that really started it, had this, like, cry moment, and then there's B, like, kinda, helping her out, and then also sharing part of her heart-to-heart moment about her life and what happened and everything, and then you go on, like, a little time jump of Nick wanting to share something, but at that time didn't feel ready or didn't want to, and then later I was like, "I wanna open up," and it was, like, a really beautiful moment because it was, like, it's raining, it's their first day, they were starting on the ups, and then now they're in the downs, and then it was a really nice moment to see them opening up to each other. That felt organic, like, out of any moment we saw, no matter how many names we call ourselves as our team, showmances, romances. This was the most real moment for me at that moment, like seeing them like pull their heart out.
Agreed. People tend to come together during times of hardship. So we got a very raw look at that.
Mhm.
And the hardships continued because
No.
after that challenge,
That's a great segment.
we're going to prepare for tribal, and you would think the conversation is going to be like, well, are we going to point the finger at Pat because he was getting people's nerves, but people are also right at Nick because he people noticed him not helping out with anything. But we get these weird edits of like the lightning and the storm, thunder, waves, and it gotta goes on a little bit longer than you'd expect, just a transition shot. And then we eventually see, or I think we hear someone like crying out in pain, and eventually the scene is set where it's Pat being carried to the beach on a stretcher. And uh, what happened is the waves were so rough that when one wave hit the boat, either Pat just fell in the boat or fell out of the boat, but the results was some kind of back injury. At the time, that's all they know. Like clearly he's in this back pain, like severe, excruciating pain, and they're trying to figure it out. We get the shot of all these medics here. Even even Jeff comes. This was a little pretty hard to watch, actually.
It was
Yeah,
very
absolutely.
raw. It was very, like, emotional because he doesn't wanna go home. He's in severe pain, you could see that. He can barely breathe, like, he is in so much pain, he can't breathe, like, all he's thinking about is he doesn't wanna quit, he wants to stay, and while his entire tribe members are there, like, watching him. Like, I feel like I can't help but feel like some of the guilt some of these people feel because they were just, like, smack talking him a while ago about him being like, like telling like being very bossy and everything, but he in the end he got the job done. He made a shelter and now he's hurt. And I don't know what they were gonna do or voting out because we never really got to like go to the chances of them talking about who's getting voted out. But it was just a very raw moment to see and, very touching, like, that when he was like, "I don't wanna quit," and Jeff was like, "You're not quitting, we're the ones telling you that you gotta go, so don't feel like you are quitting, as you're not quitting." And that's such, like, a big contrast versus Austin on the other season we
The Hoss
watched,
on season
who was
7, yeah.
afraid of getting pneumonia, a blood clot, I don't know what he was thinking about, but in him quitting and him is just like, "Alright, get out, go." No tribe spoke, you get out.
Yeah, I can't help but wonder. I still have a feeling that Pat, had that not happened, may have gotten eliminated just because he seemed to have the most negative reception outside of anyone else in the tribe. So that obviously, like when tragedy like that happens, like, people start to feel guilt about thinking that way. I just found it was interesting that some statements felt like they were backtracking them, like, "Oh, like, he was strong, this and that," and I'm, like, just wondering, like, would you have said that, like, if that didn't happen?
For real
But
though. Do
it
you th
you know
do you
Yeah,
think, like, if he got hurt, like, this happened, but then he was able to feel better from medication, like, he felt better, do you think they will still take him out tonight? Like, do you think
pro
they're like, "Oh, you're hurt, you're not gonna be as good in challenge, take you out," or they're gonna feel bad, like, literally this guy just, like, got
pro
so hurt, he was like, "Need medic, let's just keep him in for another day."
I mean, if the medics clear him to keep playing, yeah, the tribe might still feel a little bit bad about eliminating him, so I think they might still eliminate him eventually. Like, I don't think that would go away, but I think he might not be first on their list. They might be like, "Oh, someone like Nick is the backup option because he's lazy," or something like that.
Mm,
So,
mhm.
I you know, I felt like watching that sequence, like, even with the doctors and Jeff, they were describing his injury to be like a spinal injury. I'm like, "Yeah, no, he's done." Like, there's no way they're messing around with that. Like, you your back is sensitive, like, you mess up your back, it's gonna stay like that your whole life. Like, they're not gonna wanna mess around with that, especially since the weather conditions are still kinda rough. He's playing a physical game, like, he's gonna be very hampered if they let him play. Like, I'm
Yeah,
not
for
sure how
sure.
he would even be able to play. It looked like he was paralyzed at that moment.
Yeah, he was just in so much pain, it felt like, and I'm sure they gave him medications through the IV, and it wasn't helping him, and at that point, it just felt like, there was no return. He was at a point of no return if he was still not feeling good. It stinks because I feel like, when you're out there, you wanna play and you wanna represent your family or your loved ones, so I felt for Pat, it felt very sad to see that, like,
I
this
wonder
guy
how
that was building and stuff. Yeah, well.
I wonder how more extreme that is for the providers there, like, the the stress level of the emergency room versus the stress level just you're on a beach, so it's only one person, but you are not right next to any medical equipment or anything. You're just sitting here on the sand.
I
I
think
wonder
in my POV is that if they are in this show, I could assume they have underwent some sort of medical clearance prior to going into the show. So I wouldn't be as worried someone's just gonna like get down and need to be like code and stuff like that, meaning like, they had a cardiac arrest. Likelihood low, not not no risk. So I feel like it's less scary. I mean, how many times have we seen medic like coming out, you know? And usually it's something like just to make sure like, hey, right. I feel like it's less stressful versus being in an ER, like because that's where it all like truly all
And
happens and stuff. Versus here, you also have the fallback of like it's either you go back to the playing the game or you cannot play and you need to go. I think it's more the stress of be needing to be that call to pull someone out. I think that's like the tough call as like Pat didn't want to go, but you're the one making that medical judgment and decision for somebody that doesn't want to go. And he can't just be like, no, I'm not going to listen to you. I'm going to stay. Like Jeff is like, you got to go. Jeff is like looking at the person, the doctor, and be like, should he stay? Can he stay? And
I wonder.
that's
Yeah,
a
I
tough
wonder. I wonder
judgment.
if the doctors like Jeff because they're off doing. They're trying to. They're trying to make sure that the situation is stable enough to take a minute to think about what to do. But meanwhile, Jeff is like asks like, so what does it look like?
I know, right?
What
I
you?
feel like Jeff would scare me more. If I worked as a
Yeah.
like in that field, I would be more scared because Jeff is asking, he's like, so what are your thoughts is going on here? Like, tell me what, I'm like, Jeff, give me some time here. Give me a break right now. Like, imagine, like, he's like, Jeff is like, so what's going on with the camera? And Jeff, like, kind of kneels down too and looks at you a little close. I'm like, Jeff, oh my gosh. I'm like,
It
I might
just
pass out. I might need a
yeah.
medic.
No, yeah, like, obviously, the ball is in the doctor's court there, but that was one of those situations where it's like, "Jeff, dude, just look at him for a second." He's obviously not in any condition to keep going.
Just
Like
like,
like
so
I said,
can he play?
it's a
Do
back
you look at him?
injury that's not just gonna randomly heal itself. So, it's
I
you
have
know
I have the quote from this Entertainment Weekly article from 2018 where Pat says he remembers it's like there was he remembers like 15 to 20-foot waves off the side of the boat, and then doctors told him afterward he had compressed his spine from impact after being thrown up with the boat over the ocean. So I'm not sure if they mean just like up over the boat and then back onto the boat or actually off the boat. Not sure exactly. And then it ultimately deteriorated the bursa sac between my second and third vertebrae, is
Oh,
what he
second
was
and
told.
third. Okay. So he had probably what it sounds like a disc herniation in IL-2-3, and then it probably compressed his spine, and he had a spinal cord, like spinal stenosis, like narrowing of the central canal. That's what it sounds like. But interestingly enough, when I did saw that scene, I was like, he either blew a disc herniation or he had a compression fracture. One or the other happened to him.
yeah.
'Cause he was in so much pain, and usually that takes a lot of time to rehab. It's not a quick fix, and he was probably not gonna be able to do anything physical at that time. Like, if they had him stay, he would have been, like, literally bedbound. Like, he wouldn't be able to he would get up very gingerly and probably needed medication, which I don't even know they would give him, and so there's no way he could have stayed, man. There's no
Yeah,
way.
no way. For all the baseball fans out there,
Ooh,
Clayton Kershaw, herniated disc. There's no way that pitcher is pitching after that sort of injury. They're out for an
lumbar or
extended amount.
cervical?
I don't remember what exactly. I know it was classified as a herniated disc.
Oh, okay.
But honestly, like just at a simple look at any sort of back injury, back injuries are nothing to write home about. Like they tend to be very serious. So you got to take them. You got to take a lot of care with someone who has back injuries because they're not just going to heal like that. And even if they do, those sorts of injuries linger throughout the course of your life. So you want to be
With
very
that being
Sure.
careful.
said, do you was his one episode, longer episode because it's a premiere episode, enough for you to want to see Pat come back?
No.
I disagree. I kind of do. I felt like he was he was the heart of the David tribe. It felt like, I felt like maybe because of the edit, because he was gonna go bye-bye anyways, but I saw a lot of him and I felt like he would have been I feel like he didn't have the chance to build the relationship yet, but I feel like he had the chance to. For some reason, I feel like Pat could have, but he just couldn't. Like he was too busy building the shelter for everybody that's everyone's sleeping on. So I feel like for that reason of him like doing that. I wanted him to come back again, you know? I know it's not like a common thing just because you injured this season and got out doesn't mean you're coming back next, but I wish that he had a redemption arc, you know? They should put all the people that got injured into one season.
Okay, I was thinking the same thing, but I
I don't think
propose
that.
I propose Medivacs versus quitters. How's that?
Oh! Oh my god,
I
that's amazing. How many quitters are there? They can't be that much. Is it just gonna be Austin himself?
We had like 4 seasons ago, we had like 3 different people or something. I forget.
Oh,
I
that's
forget
true. Wait,
exactly.
you're right. I kinda blacked that out. You're right. We would have that.
I feel like
That would be crazy.
I feel like in one sense that game truly does become Survivor, but like in the other, I would question like if that's I would question if that's what you want to watch, especially if it's an injury that can then aggravate itself again in the future. Why would you want to watch
That's
someone
true, that'd be
who
so sad.
is at higher
Again,
risk of
I
injury?
would I would think they would have medical clearance, you know. I feel like whenever someone does something, at least for their spine, they always check back with us. So I feel like they would be like, "Hey, I'm going on Survivor." And if they're like 2 months after a surgery, I'll be like, "What did you just say?" Because I'll be like, "No." But if they're like a year out, I'll be like, "Oh yeah, for sure. Down." Depending how they are, of course, and everything looked into, obviously. But it's just you know, that would be fun. You know, like Kevin with his not messed up shoulder coming back, down.
Yeah,
Okay,
good
okay.
callback.
We'll
Yeah,
see. Maybe there'll be another in the hands of the fans season where we get to pick the theme and
Oh, I would love
then we can
that.
do that.
I
So
think
this
I
all
think you'll
rolls.
notice. Sorry, just wanted to interject there for a second. I think you'll notice, like, with that question, I tend to have a high bar in terms of who should return because I feel like you need to be someone who's like a standout person and just on the cusp of winning or have these winning aspirations that we just did not get to see play out. I think for me, that's what I look out for. So, like, I would be less likely to choose like winners, even amongst like several seasons. I might pick and choose, like, okay, a few people over the course of like 3 or 4 seasons, and then eventually have that culminate into, a reunion at some point with these, like, returning stars. I wouldn't wanna have multiple seasons of returning stars. I would want newer people to get a chance every time, for the most part.
Mm, that's perfect because I'll balance you out and go the other way. I'm most likely a yes, unless it's a no. I mean,
No, I
heck,
like
I will
that.
be screaming if Ryan Shoulders come back. Literally screaming if Ryan Shoulders ever come back. I will shoulder that.
Well,
That would be for me.
someone definitely needed a shoulder, and that was
Yes.
Kevin.
Oh my gosh, Kevin. Yes. Yes. We
Hey,
all need
Kevin.
a shoulder to cry on and to lay on. And Ryan Shoulder, please come back. Come back, please. I will be screaming. Screaming.
You heard it here,
Maybe
folks.
I gotta look up his IMDb. Maybe he's actually like this amazing star in like movies, TV
Just
shows,
goes under a different name now.
reality competitions.
Ryan
Um,
Knee instead of
oh
shoulders or
boy.
something.
Uh, but yeah, so without Pat, so the second episode is pretty straightforward until like the very end. So, first of all, we end up seeing both immunity idols discovered. So, at least in 2018, typically, we'll have to see if it plays out that way on this season, but typically each beach has an idol hidden somewhere. And at the moment, both have been found. So that's Davy on the David tribe discovers kind of randomly just the idol. He sees a string. The string is colored orange. He follows it, finds it, and he has it. And as far as we know, no one was there to uh catch him. So he just has it and no one knows about it for now, which is great for Davy. And then on the Goliath tribe, in the previous episode, Dan found that idol. But in the second episode, we end up seeing a conversation between Kara and him. And Kara is not a fan of Dan just hiding that idol in his jacket and leaving that jacket just out in the open. But Dan's fine with it because, like, who's gonna look in jacket anyway? And Like, even if someone was looking for it, why would they think it'd be such an obvious place? Like, no one would ever think I'd do that, so it's fine.
Yeah, no way that would
And
come back to
Car
bite him.
ultimately, yeah, Car just accepts that fine. Uh, cut eventually to Jeremy, who's hanging out with Mike, kind of a random pair, but they're chilling. And Jeremy kind of just takes he although he does kind of ask Mike at first for his opinion, he ultimately just on his own just rushes over and searches through the jacket, which means he probably searched through other people's stuff too, and discovers the idol all just there, wrapped up, paper and everything. And he tells Mike. So Jeremy now knows for a fact that Dad has the idol, as does Mike. Wow, that came around to bite him in like less than 24 hours.
Are you, like, allowed to steal someone else's idol?
No, you can't do
Okay.
that. You can't, even if you took it, you wouldn't be able to use it, and eventually, like, production would tell you to put it back. So you can't grab someone's idol and just toss it to the ocean. But if that person hands it to you and is like, I now give this to you, so it's now officially it's my idol, then yeah, you could just toss it if you want to.
What if someone knows you have an idol, right? Like, they show it to you,
Mhm.
and you're like, "Oh, can I see that? I wanna see what it looks like." And then
Mhm.
you, quote, unquote, "slip," and it accidentally drops out of your hand into the ocean.
Into the ocean. uh you would
Whoops.
have to plead your case. So it's not allowed, but maybe you could trick the producers and get
Hey,
away with
I'm a
it.
clumsy person.
But probably what's gonna happen is they're just gonna replace it though. Like if you tell them it was an accident, they'd be like, "Oh,
Oh,
no big
damn.
deal," and they just bring in other ones. That's
Damn
probably
it.
what happened.
I mean, oh, good.
But well, I mean, what you need to do is get like a genie, like how a genie tricks you to say, "I wish for something." You need to trick someone into saying, "I give you my idol now," and if that happens, it's yours, and you can do with it what you wish.
Okay.
So yeah, don't just leave your idol out in the open. But that's
So,
just
secret
so
technique
bad.
to winning in Survivor, just bring a recorder with you and keep
Mhm,
just, like, look out for those words that people are saying and
mhm.
just splice it together.
And then, like, whilst you're talking to someone, you just play it so the camera picks it up, and it's plausible that the guy said it. And then when they look back at the footage, like, "Oh, I guess he did say those words." He's like, "What? No."
Really thinking
Uh,
outside the box here.
but yeah, maybe. Um, Meanwhile, on the David tribe, so it was very emotional. They had the cyclone. They're struggling. They lost a challenge. They lose Pat to injury. The next night was tough, on its own too. But people start talking away, making their plans, and it seems like some people have decided, well, although we were thinking about Nick potentially being a target, like now we don't have Pat, so we probably shouldn't vote out another strong person on our tribe. So if it comes to it, the person we're going to target is Larissa. So now Larissa's name is coming up, and Elizabeth, who and here just the advantage of keeping an alliance secret. So Elizabeth, who considers Larissa her number one for now. Granted, again, it's only been 3 days, but her number one decides she's gonna tell Larissa so she's aware, and eventually she's gonna try to turn this around to make sure it's not Larissa. So that's interesting. So ultimately, Elizabeth is going out of her way to go against the status quo, so putting her neck on the line to save her number one ally.
Yeah, I mean, Lursa herself brought up a good point. They decided to target her because she came across as the weakest of their tribe. But she then goes on to say, I helped win that very first challenge, which is true. So,
Sure.
it for her, she just didn't feel right about being selected if that's what they're basing it off of. For Elizabeth, good on her for sticking to her guns and trying to at least make the effort to help out her number one. And that leads us to
It's
who
scary though,
the
right?
new
Like,
target is, right?
oh yeah. Well, just give it a second for the challenge. So we do go to a challenge. This challenge is called Another Brick in the Wall. Um, It involves ultimately like your goal is to build a block puzzle at the end. There's a couple challenges. You're like jumping up to get a couple keys. I think this is the challenge where they're on the water though, on the boat. So like you get on the boat, you get to where the key is. Someone has to climb the pole to get the key, and then
Mhm.
get back on the boat. Um, and this time the Davids get smoked. Last challenge, it was close to that puzzle. This time, they didn't stand a chance.
They
A
they got lapped.
huge, yeah, they got lapped. A huge blowout win for Goliath, and because of the Survivor we've been watching lately, a lot of these times, this edit leads to an unbelievable comeback for blah blah blah. But no, there was no comeback to be had here.
It's rough to
Yeah.
watch
And
because I was like, "There's no way they're catching up at all." And this one
Yeah,
was a
very
hard one. It was not
very
easy.
poor showing.
yeah, because you're kind of hoping like, okay, if in challenges the advantages that David's gonna have is strategy, and maybe like on a TV show, their advantage would also be like they can work together well. They got good teamwork. They got good spirit and heart. But none of that showed in this. They were not working well together. Not effective. You said it before. They left B at the top. They're like the boat was floating away. Uh, and not that Goliath looked great in the puzzle, but it didn't matter. They were so far ahead. They eventually got that puzzle, and that would send the Davids to a night to think about who they're going to vote out. This is when the new target starts to be formed. So Elizabeth does the dangerous thing. This is very dangerous to, on the very first tribal, go against the majority, because right now there's not really alliances yet. There's all these pairs, but it seems like the consensus is going to be Lyrsa. So to go against that is going against everybody. But Elizabeth is going for it. So she talks with Lyrsa herself. They're gonna try to flip enough people. The first person they go to is Gabby, and this was strange. So Elizabeth starts talking like, "Hey, I'm gonna tell you like what the plan's gonna be." Gabe's like, "Oh, it's me, isn't it?" It's just like, "Wait, what? No, no, not talking
I
about that."
know. I don't know why she said that. I was like, "Wait, why?" First of all, if you think it's you, why would you say that? Because if you say that, then it's weird. Like, what? Like, even if it was you, would they say yes? I don't know. But like, I was like, and then Gabby just went through this downpouring and was like, "Oh, it's me." I'm like, "What the heck? What happened? You were such a baddie in first
She
episode."
Yeah,
I don't know, she must have felt like she personally failed her team, like, in those challenges, even though, like, they all played a part, but yeah, that's what her, like, complete I don't know if it's a complete shift in personality. She might just be someone who is a little bit self-conscious, and we just didn't see it, but yeah, it's an interesting contrast from the first episode.
yes, it's a red flag. Maybe orange flag or red flag. Are we all the way at red flag territory yet?
I'm at orange flag just now because it's one incident, so I'm okay for now as long as we don't see this again.
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, like I said, it's she might just normally be a meek person, and we're just kinda like, that might just be her personality, and, like, we just don't see enough of her to realize that, so I don't think it's a red flag necessarily just because we haven't seen enough of it.
Yeah, yeah. She gave off like just super paranoia vibes.
And keep in
Um,
mind, like, they've been through quite a lot in the first couple of days, like, they just lost a member without going to tribals, so, like, the emotions are probably just high, so, like, it's somewhat understandable.
Very true. And if you think they're gonna target the weakest, again, judging books by their cover, you might say that Gabby's the weakest. It's possible. So it's not entirely out there, but it was a strange interaction. But
Mhm.
ultimately, Elizabeth gets the point across, and Lyrsa walks over too. Like it was going to be her, but we actually are intending it to be Jessica because they actually pick. They're like, who should we target instead? They thought about targeting Carl because Carl is allegedly the first person to say Lyrsa's name, but they settle on Jessica. Um, this is a good move because it's probably like if you're gonna try to flip something, you don't want it to feel like a big move. Like if you're gonna take out another person who's good in challenges, that feels like a big leap to convince people. So Jessica's easier, and Jessica doesn't seem to be part of any of these other pairs we talked about. If anything, she's with Carl, which is works against her now because they don't like Carl. So now they have Gabby on board. Then they go to Christian, and Christian's ignoring. He's not sold on it yet, but he's like, I could get behind this. This is fine. Like I am neither aligned with Lyrsa nor Jessica, so either of these is okay. This is the another bizarre interaction. Now it's just Gabby and Christian talking, and Gabby, I guess, wants like extra reassurances, and that she asks like, "Are you playing with me?" And then it's like, "What? Like in the she's like in the sand?" It's like, "No, not the sand." Like Gabby's like, it sounds like she's trying to make sure like this isn't some big hoax, is it? Like you're still like my ally here, but it was odd because Christian, that's not how that conversation started. Christian's was that conversation started with, "What do you think we should do? Like, should we go with them two or should we do something else?" But instead it became, "Yes, Gabby, I am definitely on your side. I am playing with you." Okay.
That sequence was bizarre in the sense that they're trying to figure out a plan, and like you said, it turned into a more personal thing. Like, or Gabby started taking it more personally in terms of she's questioning if she can fully trust Christian, if Christian's going to stand by her for whatever their vote is going to be. Because, and that just again tells me, she's not sure if she herself is going to be the target. The concern may just be that if they're not voting for Jessica, that she's the target.
And then the part where they were playing with sand, and then she's like, "Do you wanna play with me?" And then Christian's like, "The sand?" And she's like, "No." I was like, that was so funny. I was like, that's something I would do, like, with Christian. That would be like, "Oh, you wanna play the sand?" And like, that would be something I would do, and I don't know if that helped with, like, her feeling like, "Oh, you don't even wanna play with me. You think I wanna play with sand?" Like, now I'm even down the dumps now. But we talk about Showmance with Dan and Kara. I low-key feel like Gabby likes Christian. Like, is that weird? Am I just having weird vibes? I feel like
You
Gabby's
think
catching feelings right now.
it's not really there's no need for red flags or orange flags. This is like a
She's
pink
just
heart-shaped
trying to
flag.
yeah, she's trying to heart up with Christian right now, because 'cause they're both, like, kinda have the same wavelength, same tribe, they're working together. Christian's a nice guy. I low-key feel like she likes him, low-key. Maybe it's just, like, the beginning phases, and I'm just not, like, I need to watch more episodes, but I don't know, some little hearts coming out of Gabby right now.
Man, they
What do
gotta
you
If it
think,
bring
Ev?
they gotta they gotta bring Pat back to play Cupid or Matchmaker this season.
uh,
Yes, the
well,
heart, the artery.
I mean, granted, if it was gonna happen, it would have been like that way versus these big personalities on the Goliath tribe where Dan and Cards instantly like that is the stereotypical like the popular kids just get together immediately, whereas the rest of the people it takes a while for stuff to start up. So it's possible. Um, and the last thing before tribal is that Christian talks to his other potential alliance member, Nick, and the Mason Dixon alliance. And the last shot before tribal, it's framed like they're gonna together decide how this is gonna go. Either they're gonna choose to go with Elizabeth, Lyrsa, and Gabby, or they're gonna choose to go with everybody else, which is B, Carl, Davy, and Jessica. And ultimately, they decide to go with. I guess it's weird to call it the minority. Like they are siding with 3 versus 4, but whichever side they go with, they are the new majority either way.
Mhm.
But yeah, they side with them and they choose to vote for Jessica and a pretty uncommon close vote for the first episode. Usually, especially with big tribes, the first vote is like landslide. But yeah, a close 5-4 vote, and we lose the alleged 22-year-old, actual 19-year-old
She
Jessica.
never got to say her age for real, for real.
She never did.
Yeah,
Um,
the votes, like when they first began counting the votes, it looked like it was going to be Lyrsa, but then it just flipped on her. And now we're heading into a situation for the next episode where the David tribe is split on this past vote, 4-5. So it'd be interesting to see what that translates into, how they try to get together and focus on winning their next set of challenges.
well,
Yeah, hypothetically, it looks good, right? Because on the bigger group is a bunch of pair. I mean, I guess it's Christian. It's Christian who's with Nick and Christian who's with Gabby, and then Elizabeth who's with Lyrsa. That feels like everyone's connected. That feels like a good thing. I guess it could. It's not
are they
guaranteed to
like
be good.
publicly connected? Like they are connected in a way, but they're not publicly connected. So now they're like, how are they going to work together if they don't seem like they're working together? Like if I don't know you're working with F, but I'm also working with you, Will, it's kind of weird. I mean, it's not, we're
I
in a
see.
group
Like, if
hypothetically,
it
but
if
we're
it were
not
to
really,
come out,
Yeah.
if Christian were to let slip the name Mason Dixon to Gabby, then
It's like,
bad
wait a
things might happen.
minute, you've been working with him this entire time? Or like,
Yeah.
are we together?
Yeah.
While I feel like it's good to have pairs, like I think early on you want common consensus with most things, like just so you have that group unity. The thing that I'm paying attention to is, does the David group have what it takes to stand up to the Goliaths in challenges so far? Outside of that first challenge, we have not seen it. The Goliaths have been doing a good job winning those challenges. This is just kind of calling back to, the previous season that we just saw where Vula tribe did not start out strong. They were losing challenge after challenge. So I would hate to see a repeat of that. I want the group to
I
be able to
know.
unite, and regardless of which pairs they're part of, I want them all to be able to work well together and not be infighting amongst these groups. So my concern is with a split vote like that obviously they're not all on the same page. But that doesn't mean they can't get there.
Yep. Yep. So there we go. That's our first 2 episodes of David versus Goliath. Long conversation, but it warranted it because it's a premiere episode. You want to get to know everybody. There's more people than even the current season. The current seasons have 18 people. The Pearl Islands has 16 people, so this is 20 people. And my hope is that we'll get to know, like, if you're gonna put 20 people on the season, hopefully you let us learn about them. Like, Jessica leaves, and I think we knew more about Pat than we knew about Jessica.
Yeah, for real though.
So that's not a great sign. Now, the people who are actually in the game still, I think there's a lot of character there, so that's a positive. But we'll see how it goes. So both of you to finish here, I'm gonna be put on the spot. I allowed you guys to have the advantage the last several seasons waiting until the merge, but nope, not anymore. You have no choice now but to pick a potential winner from the David tribe and a potential winner from the Goliath tribe. And you don't have to keep them, but if you change from them at any point, then you can never go back.
Oh, easy. One of my picks, obviously Natalie, right? That's what we're
Heck
all
Oh god,
thinking.
yeah.
you want Goliath? Do
You
you
know
want the
what?
Goliath pick to be Natalie?
I love it.
I'll
Do
I'll
it.
Yeah, it's not locked in yet, but keep that in mind. Do any of you want to make a first pick? I'm also going to force you to be different. So
Ooh,
does anyone
okay,
want to go
okay.
first? So it's
Go ahead,
really
Ange.
confident.
Oh, I'm gonna go bold and go for Christian. Let's play some sand together, Christian. You're
All
my
right,
pick.
all right, Christian. Next up, it could be from either tribe. F, who will you pick? Oh, I think he actually left just like right now for a
Oh,
brief moment.
gotcha.
Oh, lucky him, lucky him. Fine,
Yeah,
then,
right
and
at that time.
you get to make your second pick. Then, too
Oh,
bad for F.
perfect. Oh, this is awesome. This is like Catan when you get to do like your double picks. Anyways, I would say it would be really crazy if I picked Jeremy because I know that's probably F's pick. Um, I would go for I think I'm gonna go for you know what? My name is Ange. There's an Angelina on there. I'm gonna vote for Angelina, even though she doesn't seem like the nicest gal in the first episode. But maybe she will warm up and become nice, and then we'll like her more. That's where I'm gonna go
Impressive.
for.
Impressive.
There's not a lot
Uh,
of Angelas, I realize there's not much, so I gotta take what I could get.
F, I'll give you one more chance if you're reconnected or not. Are you there? I take that as a no.
No.
We will collect F's winner picks post episode and put them in the show notes and talk about them next episode.
Yes.
Any final thoughts, Ange, on the start of David versus Goliath?
Ooh, I'm just excited to see what's next. Again, I hope that David's win, and can't wait to see how Christian and Gabby's love blossom in the next several episodes within the season. We'll see.
All right, all right. We shall see. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to our mega-sized premiere episode for David versus Goliath. And tune in next time as we continue with episodes 3 and 4. But until then, and until we meet again, ciao.